What is up, everybody? Welcome to the final episode of 2022, the Dense Pixels podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brad, joined by my co-host, Carrie.
What's up?
Micah was struck down by the Viddy this week.
by Miss Rona.
Yeah. So he could not join. He did offer his list of games of the year, his top 5, which we will give you, and he can elaborate on the next time he is on the episode, which will be very fun. And we'll talk about our games of the year. But first, we have a light spattering of news this week. Nothing crazy monumental. I think the people involved is the more, the biggest stuff. And that includes this first story that the next Tomb Raider game, currently in development at Crystal Dynamics, is going to be published by Amazon. Yes, that Amazon. It's going to be just like the other Tomb Raider games that have come before. I guess in order to, properly spend the money for, phone or for marketing and for things of that nature to make like this, true AAA game. I guess they needed. What's the fucking name of the Embracer? I guess Embracer Group needed to reach out to a bigger wallet. And for Amazon, I mean, this is a very easy way to get into the mainstream game industry with very little infrastructure needing to be built. They can just throw a shitload of money at something, put their name on it, and get their foot in the door, as they say.
I mean, not just that, but Tomb Raider, particularly the most recent games, they've been good. It's not like they're just throwing money at just like a name. Like the last handful of games ever since the reboot have all been received pretty well. Mm-hmm. So this seems like a softball of an investment on their part. But hey, good. I mean, I know there were some folks who had some concerns about the future of Tomb Raider after Square Enix sold off Crystal Dynamics and the handful of other Western studios that had previously been under their umbrella. So
very cool. So more to come there. I'm sure that game's probably not going to be out for at least another 2 years, I would imagine, if not longer than that. So we will keep our eyes peeled for that. Kind of out of the blue this week, Epic Games hit with a $520 million combined settlement from the Federal Trade Commission. That is the biggest fine levied on a business by the FTC, not just in gaming, in general.
Yeah.
No penalty has ever been so severe against anybody. The reason that they got hit with this is because the FTC accused Epic Games of basically exploiting children to make a fuck ton of money in Fortnite. And also collecting personal information from teens.
Yeah.
So there were 2 settlements that got levied against them. The first one was for collecting personal information from Fortnite players under the age of 13 years of age and in-game settings that turn on voice and text chat by default. This was a $275 million fine, and Epic committed to change Fortnite's default settings to have these settings come off by default. The other settlement is for using, quote, dark patterns to trick players into making unwanted purchases. Basically what this means is that, like in the skin marketplace, Epic made it too easy to buy skins accidentally when you were previewing them. Instead of just previewing it, you actually accidentally make a purchase, and then made it much more difficult to actually get those refunded. As most companies do, like very easy to buy, very difficult to get the money back when you don't want the thing anymore. Even companies that advertise making it super easy, like Steam, you still have to jump through a couple hoops in order to process those refunds. And then sometimes, according to the FTC, when those charges did get reversed, Epic would sometimes ban the account, which would lock them out of any other content that the account had previously paid for. They were required to pay $245 million into a fund to reimburse players for unintentional purchases. To Epic's, good for them. They didn't really fight this. They're not going to appeal the decision.
They're not really in much of a position to fight this that hard.
They're not,
Like,
but most corporations would, at least. You know what I mean?
No, that's true. I mean, I think they sort of saw these judgments come down and were like, well, you got us. Like, what? It's like, it at this point, it probably came down to either we just pay this and be done with it, or we spend even more money on lawyers trying to fight it and then have to pay this much or more later.
Yeah.
So
there's a couple things. So like $500 million is basically like half a month's worth of revenue for Fortnite. So like it's not, it is significant, but it's not like, you know, they're not closing shop because of this or anything of that nature. I also imagine that they're kind of watching what's going on with this whole Microsoft Activision deal that's in place. And Epic's a big company, and I could see Epic wanting to splash some cash around in the future and possibly pick up some big studios. And I'm pretty sure that part of this is also playing nice with the government so that when it comes time for the FTC to review a merger or an acquisition that potentially could happen down the road for Epic Games, they remember, like, you know, these Epic guys, like they played ball, like they didn't fight us, and maybe that greases the wheels a little bit later on.
Yeah, I'm sure that has something to do with it. On the flip side, I'm curious as to what kind of precedents this is going to set for other sort of like in-game purchases in apps and whatnot. Like how is this going to influence how the government approaches games that have like loot box systems that don't get received particularly well and whatnot? So, and let's be perfectly clear, they're right in that like a lot of this stuff is tricking people into spending money and being explicitly predatory towards kids, and they're absolutely 100% in the right to have pinged these guys for as much as they did.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to sort of what the follow-up is going to be beyond Fortnite, because I feel like there's one coming. So
yeah, and Epic's trying to be proactive with some other changes. So some of the things that they have changed following the investigation that led to these settlements, that they say were not intentionally exploitative, but they still changed them anyway. Automatically saving payment data, you have to opt into that now, which I don't know how that flew beforehand, but okay. They've rolled back single button press purchases. Again, this is a very easy one to do if you're not trying to scam people out of a shitload of money. Like, yes, you should have a confirmation button, because people hit accidental keys all the time.
People fat-fingered shit constantly. Like,
they have stopped disabling accounts that seek refunds for fraudulent purchases. They have added self-service refunds. Like before, you used to have to jump through even more hoops. Now it's a little bit easier, apparently. And they used to have no spending limits at all for players under 13. I don't understand how, in good conscience, you could not throttle for people younger than teens.
The fact that wasn't there already shows that they were trying to get kids to spend their parents' money.
Right, because 10-year-olds don't have any fucking impulse control when it comes to that stuff.
Dude, I have had to walk my cousin through the parental controls on his Xbox over the phone because his 10-year-old kid spent like $78 in an afternoon on fucking V-Bucks and Fortnite.
Right.
So yeah, that shouldn't have been on me to do. There should have been protections there in the first place to prevent the all that from happening to begin with. Now, should my cousin have been paying attention to his kid? Yes, but he's a meathead from Long Island, so of course he didn't do that. He doesn't listen to this show. I'll fucking dug on him all day long. So yeah, I mean, obviously the changes that Epic is making are all great. We're all very happy that they're doing them.
I mean, and fortunately, I mean, kind of to your point, like, because Epic is doing this, I think you're going to see at least a few other folks in the industry and some bigger games kind of take a second look at their current practices. Because when the industry leader is getting dinged with $500 million in fines from the federal government, You might want to just get out there in front of that to make sure that you're not going to be the next person on the chopping block. Because
Yeah, a little bit.
yeah, that would be pretty stupid to just kind of let that fly. Finally, Riot Games, please, pretty please, let us out of our FTX sponsorship deal because that thing is going down in flames right now. They have they have made a court filing to try to back out of this deal that they signed with FTX, citing irreparable, quote, reputational harm that is part of the FTX bankruptcy case that is ongoing.
No. Fuck Riot. Like, fuck all these people who invested all this money into FTX. Like, if I, a Bingus from Owings Mills, could look at what was going on with FTX with no background in finance, no background in business, and be like, that looks suspect. Then why didn't any of these assholes have the gumption to withhold themselves from trying to get on board the latest money train? And guess what? The train went off the rails really fucking quickly, didn't it? Now that the founder has been arrested and charged with 8 counts of fraud and conspiracy. No. Fuck Riot. Fuck Riot and their toxic as fuck crunch culture, their toxic as fuck misogynistic company culture that, by all accounts, has not improved that much since we last talked about that shit, I believe, earlier this year. And no, fuck them. I hope they have to live with their shitty investment decisions for as long as it takes for FTX to completely go up in flames.
I do agree.
I do not think
that they should not be let out of this. Like
no.
You fucking dance with the devil. You gotta pay the fee. You're right. Like, there's so many companies out there that bought into FTX's bullshit specifically. Like, every Major League Baseball umpire wears an FTX patch on their shirt sleeve. Yeah. Very noticeable the past couple of seasons. I think that they should still have to continue wearing those FTX patches and live in their shame.
Live with it, man.
Live in their shame. Also, I mean, the thing with Sam Bankman-Fried, the former CEO of FTX, he was famous for, like, playing League during meetings. So, like, Riot Games, like, oh, this is our boy, like, we want to get in bed with him, he's awesome, this is going to be fucking great. And then the fucking company goes up in flames. And of course, now everyone's looking to get out of it as soon as possible, which is, again, very funny to me. And apparently, FTX owes Riot $6.5 million still. Riot, get in line with everybody else who's not going to see much if any.
You ain't seeing a cent of that shit.
Because there ain't no money. There ain't no money to get.
No.
As they say, you can't get blood from a stone. So, what the fuck are you gonna do? No. This is hilarious to me, and should serve as a cautionary tale to all of these game developers out here who are dabbling or outright, like, jumping headfirst, Square Enix, into, like, NFTs and crypto mining and all this other bullshit. This is what awaits you if you throw your lot in with these folks.
This is what's going to happen. Like, not first you're going to piss off probably the vast majority of your fan base, but 2, it's not going to pan out for you.
No.
It's simply not.
No.
So
yes, I hope the League of Legends tournament scene sponsored by FTX remains so for a very long time, and we can all point and laugh at them like little Nelson Munces from afar. So,
well, if you want to point and laugh at video game companies on the internet, you can do so over at our Discord. The Discord is has been live for a hot second over at densepixels.com/fans. That will take you over to the Dense Pixels podcast Discord, and you can come hang out, chat with me and Brad and Micah and whoever the hell else happens to be hanging around. There's been a lot of conversation about World Cup. Apparently it was a very exciting final. I didn't follow the World Cup at all, but I'm happy for you guys. Plenty of other stuff being talked about, gaming news, wrestling, F1 racing, the usual, all sorts of video game stuff too, on top of all of those niche topics. And then if you want to see our beautiful faces, you can go to youtube.com/densepixels. Be sure to hit the subscribe button while you're there, because boy howdy, the YouTube algorithm sucks. So if you want to help us defeat that algorithm, that would be great. And then while you're on the internet, subscribe to all of the TNP Studios podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. So you can subscribe to the Nerdpocalypse, Black on Black Cinema, Coming Distractions, and the weekly preview episode of Look Forward. And then if you want to help us keep the lights on, head to densepixels.com/premium. And for just $5 a month or $50 for the year, you get all those premium podcasts like The Airing of Grievances, No Time to Bleed, The Men with the Golden Tongues, Upstage Conversation, and the workhorse of the premium slate. The full episodes of the Look Forward podcast are limited to premium, so be sure to hop in there. And then presumably everything else will be returning in 2023.
Well, I mean, look forward is also off, which is a shame because it would be glorious to be getting on there to talk about the Donald Trump NFTs that released this past week. So,
yeah,
alas, you'll have to wait to hear our thoughts on that until next year. But it's very similar to our stance on NFTs and crypto in this episode, I can assure you. That brings us to the 2022 games of the year. For those new listeners, we usually each pick 5 games that were our favorites through the year. We go around the room and go 5 through 1, and we talk about them and why they were awesome. We also on this show do not strictly limit ourselves to games that released in 2022. This is the new to us list, so very often we might have a game that's a year or two old that end up on our game of the year list, which is fine. As it happens for me, all of my stuff is games that all released in 2022, except for one, but nobody cared about it in 2021, and it got popular in 2022, so we're still going to consider that a 2022 game for all intents and purposes.
Okay.
So we first start with honorable mentions. I don't have any honorable mentions this year. I will only say I did not include Persona 5 Royal on my Game of the Year list, even though it did release on Steam this year, so you could consider it a 2022 release. However, if it was in my top 5, I would have ranked it at number 2. So just know that it would have been my number 2 game of the year if I ranked it, but I didn't rank it because it technically actually came out 4 years ago at this point. So it's not placed, but it would be if I had decided to do it.
Okay. My honorable mentions are Hades, which I got the credits roll. That was fun.
And yet you're not done.
I'm really not.
There's an epilogue that takes a long time to unlock.
There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do.
A lot of relationships to build. A lot of people to get back together.
I gotta do like some nectar runs. Like I'm running out really quick. I just have to like put on Dionysus's like charm and be like, all right, we're gonna go get some nectar. I don't care what happens at the end. I'm just here to get nectar. So yeah, Hades is good. Everyone was right. I'm dumb. I should have played it before now. Whatever. Spiritfarer, I played the shit out of over the summer, and that game's lovely. If you have the opportunity to grab it, you should do that. And Trombone Champ, because I don't know that a game has made me laugh consistently as hard as Trombone Champ has. And they've been really good about adding more fun songs and whatnot, and the fan-made content is hilarious. Trombone Champ is a delight. So
I would really enjoy that game to come out like 15 years ago and really take the piss out of the plastic instrument genre that existed.
Oh, I still feel like we need like a plastic instrument like way to play Trombone Champ.
It would be pretty cool. So Micah's number 5 was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. This was very much on my radar, but I did not actually purchase it this year, and I really should go back and remedy that situation at some point. But that was his number 5, and again, he'll tell you all about it next time he's on the show. My number 5 is a game that I've talked about on this show a little bit. It, for me, is the perfect epitome of what a sequel should be in the video game industry, where you take the core mechanics of things that worked really well in the first game and just improve all of them and add lots of new shit and make it really pretty. I am referring to Rogue Legacy 2, which came out on on the Switch and Steam and a couple other platforms this year. Again, this is like Rogue Legacy was one of the original like 2D, like more mainstreamy roguelike games, and it was really good. But it was very much a 1.0 effort. You could tell, right? Rogue Legacy 2 just took what worked about that game and just refined it, added more classes, added more power up abilities, added extra areas, added new enemies that behaved in really unique ways, added just really, made the classes play really distinctly from one another, even more so than they did in the first game. Really gave a lot of replay value and a lot of great ways to play. I'm 30 hours into the game. I still have not beaten the game yet, which is, a ton of content that's in there and just tremendously fun. Like, you could sit there and play Rogue Legacy for 20 minutes and have a good time. You could sit there and play it for 4 hours and have a great time. Fantastic roguelike game. Check it out if you enjoy games like Dead Cells or other 2D roguelikes especially. It's my number 5.
Cool. My number 5 is Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak, which was the expansion that hit Monster Hunter Rise earlier this year. Yeah, look, I like Monster Hunter. No surprises there. We've known this for a minute now. Sunbreak is great. The new monsters that they've added, the variants have been cool. The extra story has been fun. The afflicted monsters are cool. It's more Monster Hunter. I'm not gonna complain about it. So, and now Rise and Sunbreak are coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X next year, and I think the Steam version is getting like a graphical upgrade when that also comes out. So now, if you are a person who owns one of those consoles and has not yet played the game on Switch or PC, you will be able to play it too. Please do. It's very fun.
Would you? So if someone's getting into Monster Hunter for the first time, would you recommend they play this or Monster Hunter World first?
Either is fine. I would honestly probably say that Rise is probably a slightly more accessible than World, but both are pretty newcomer friendly. So
cool. Mike is number 4, Marvel's Midnight Suns, which he just talked about in our most recent episode before this. The combat must have been really good to make up for the dismalness that was the between mission stuff that he talked about last week. So
yeah,
it warms my heart to see Mikey getting into a card driven action game. So very fun. My number 4, also a card-driven game, also a Marvel game, not Marvel's Midnight Suns, though. Marvel Snap, my number 4 game of the year. This, hands down, is my favorite digital card game, not roguelike, but like digital collectible card game that I've ever played. It beats the shit out of Hearthstone for me. The thing that is the magic sauce that makes it work is the short, 5 to 10 minute matches. 6 turns, that's all you get. You got to, build your deck the best way you can to optimize those 6 turns. The guessing game against your opponent, trying to outthink them, outbluff them. The game within the game, as it were, really satisfying. The frequency at which rewards are given to you, great. I haven't felt pressured to spend a single dollar in this game, and I've probably put at least 25 to 30 hours into it at this point. And it is one of the most friendly, monetized, free-to-play games that I've seen. There's certainly stuff in there that can get you in trouble if you're inclined, but you cannot really pay for power in order to, make yourself better. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what cards you have. It really matters in the way that which you construct decks, and the way that which you execute the playing of those decks is also equally important as well, because you can really fuck it up if you don't know what you're doing. Marvel Snap's excellent, and I highly recommend it to anyone who is even partially interested in getting into card battlers.
My number 4 is not a game that came out this year, but it is a game that I played for the first time this year and really, really enjoyed, and that is Outer Wilds. I was basically bullied by a member of my band into playing this game because he was aghast that I had not played it before. So I grabbed it when it was on sale for like $8, and I would say I got my $8 worth. That's a really, really good game. That's it's got so much going for it, just in terms of like the world building and the lore and the story and the puzzles and everything. I haven't done the DLC. I don't really intend to do the DLC because I hear the DLC is kind of spooky,
Mhm.
and I don't do spooky. So I'm content with having played the game the way that I did, and reaching the conclusion that I reached. So yeah, Outer Wilds was just a really lovely experience that sat with me for quite some time. So
Cool. On to our number three. Is Mike is number three, Marvel Snap, which we just talked about a little bit ago. My number three should come as no surprise to any regular listener of the podcast. I have gotten really into driving games in the past couple of years, especially ones that like have 1 foot firmly grounded in simulation. Maybe 1.5 feet in some cases, but Gran Turismo is more of the 1 foot in simulation. Gran Turismo 7 was exactly everything that I wanted the game to be. The first numbered Gran Turismo game in 8 years to come out.
wow, really?
It's really been that long. Yeah, or 7 years, 7 years. No, 8. I was right the first time. 2014 was the last one. And
The years start coming and they don't stop
they
coming.
certainly did. It's great. They added a lot of. It's the traditional like GT single player experience that you know and love. They took the best parts of Gran Turismo Sport and added them in the mix in terms of like the online multiplayer and things like that. They've been very frequent with adding stuff to the game as well, including like new cars, new circuit events, new thing, just new stuff, more stuff to do. It is truly a ode to cars, and it is one of those games that even if you're not like a car person, you can't help but kind of be taken in and enchanted by the obvious love that the people working on this game have for cars and for racing and things of that nature. Like it shines through in the game, sometimes in very corny ways, but usually in very earnest ways. The driving feels excellent. It is a ton of fun to play on my little sim rig that I have set up, and it looks gorgeous. It sounds gorgeous. Yes, even with the silly, faux jazz soundtrack that the Gran Turismo games are pretty famous for. I love it. This game's gonna be on my regular rotation for many, many years to come, I am sure. Yet it is only my number 3 game of this year. So
My number 3 goes to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So specifically Scarlet, having played Scarlet, but yeah, Scarlet and Violet are really great entries in the Pokemon franchise in terms of what they're doing with the world and what they're doing with the storylines and what they're doing with everything, and it is being held back significantly by a slew of performance issues, which is unfortunate. I had a blast with Scarlet. I love all the characters, and there's so much about the game that is fun. And when the game does run well, it runs great and it's seamless, and just like everything about it is what I want out of an open world Pokemon game. And it needed an extra 4 months in the oven, I think, just to
I think it needs
yeah.
a new hardware platform
Yeah, that too. I
to
mean,
be
again,
played on.
look,
Honestly,
we've been over this. I really don't think it's being held back quite by the Switch's hardware limitations as much as it is by, a rushed development cycle to
Mhm.
get it out in time for the holidays. Again, hopefully we will see further patches that continue to improve performance. I feel like a lot of this stuff can be fixed with future patches and DLC and whatnot. But yeah, Pokemon and Scarlet is in general the direction that I want to see this series go. Pokemon is the reason I got into video games in the first place 25 years ago, so I would love to see it continue to grow and improve. And evolve in the nature of Pokemon itself. And this feels like it's going in that direction. It's just it sucks that it was so marred by
Yeah.
so many issues on release. So
Something tells me that is not the last we will hear of Pokemon on your list. That is coming up.
no,
So,
not even a little bit.
number two, Micah's number two game of the year. Should not be too much of a surprise to most people. God of War Ragnarok, which you will see at the top of many people's game of the year list. He talked about it a little bit last week. It's more God of War, which is a great thing for a lot of people if you're into that. So, I'm sure I'll have more to say. I read the synopsis on the story. It seems very God of War, so that's all well and good. My number two was a game that came very close to being my number one. I almost knocked off my number one game for this one. Came very, very close to doing it. In the end, I could not pull the trigger. But I still think this is a very worthy number two game on my list, and that is Vampire Survivors.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, talk about a game doing the most with the least. Like, to look at this game, you wouldn't think much of it. Like, it's got this very like 8-bit art, pixely art style. As far as the gameplay goes, like, it's an auto battler. Like, the only control you have of your character is moving them around the screen. And enemies are coming at you, and all of your weapons are on cooldowns, and they fire off automatically. But that itself is the challenge, like getting yourself in position to best optimize your weapons, picking up new weapons, evolving them into very powerful weapons, the slew of options you have in the game between the different weapons that can drop. It is also, I heard someone describe it as like a friendly dopamine machine, essentially, because it gives you like that loot box slot machine, like those dopamine hits of like constantly unlocking stuff and seeing the things explode and seeing the numbers pop on the screen and seeing your guy get more powerful in a very short amount of time and just seeing the numbers go up. But without any of the predatory stuff like spending money and things of that nature. Instead, it just sucks all your time, like a time vampire of sorts. This game is so much fun. They just released a DLC for it, and the coolest part about it is it's so cheap. Like the cost of entry is negligible in this game. The base game is $5. The DLC
yeah.
I think is $2. And I think it just released on mobile phones this week, and it's free. I think it's free to play on mobile phones. Like, literally, no one has any excuse to not play Vampire Survivors. It is so much fun. I sunk nearly 40 hours into the game this year. It's so good. The soundtrack's incredible. If you like chiptunes, it's really fucking awesome. So many characters in the game. Again, so many weapons that you can unlock. So many items. So many things to do. Achievements out the wazoo. Like, if you're on Steam, the game has 150 achievements. And you constantly are unlocking those, like even more dopamine as you go along. Like I have 132 of those, I think, or something like that at this point. Just a tremendously fun game. It came very close to dethroning my number one game. I still think number two is a hell of a place for Vampire Survivors to end up on a Game of the Year list, and it's going to be there for a lot of people's Game of the Year list.
Yeah. My number two is Pokemon Legends Arceus. Unsurprising, as we just alluded to. Look, I think Legends Arceus was a massive step forward for this franchise in a way that I don't know that people really expected. The initial trailers, people were just like, oh, it's just Breath of the Wild, but it looks worse. And like the smooth way in which you just go right into battles or right into catching something and stuff like that. The fact that like sometimes Pokemon are going to be really fucking aggro at you, and you either need to send your own Pokemon into battle or risk getting headbutted. Like it makes the world feel more real than it had been before. The fact that it is set in the sort of ancient past of the universe is cool and interesting. The storyline I thought was really interesting. The characters I thought were really well written, especially for a Pokemon game, which typically does like surface level character writing. Yeah, just super super fun across the board, and it runs much smoother than Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I would consider, like, I think overall I liked these games about the same amount,
Hmm.
but I think I had to give number 2 to Arceus, basically because it was a bigger step forward for the franchise when it came out at the start of the year, and it runs better. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I hope we get more of like the Legends style games. I would love for them to go deeper into some of the other lore of some of the other legendaries. I feel like that's very much some untapped potential for them to do more of that style of game, while still having the rest of the mainline franchise be more contemporary, I guess you would say, in
Hmm.
terms of their setting. So
Very cool. I now know what your number one is, so
yeah,
it's gonna be fun to hear you talk about that.
yeah,
Mine and Micah's number one game. I feel like that since we've been doing this, me and Micah have lined up on our number one game of the year a lot. Like I don't know the exact count, but I feel like it happens a lot. To the surprise of nobody, we've been talking about it all year long. It's Elden Ring.
yeah,
It's Elden Ring. I've not been so taken in by a game for a while. I will say it's been a little bit. The what this game achieves is very impressive. Like it's an enormous game, and yet it still feels very small. It's a genre defining game. Like I think that this game is kind of the next evolution that we got started on the path from Breath of the Wild on, in terms of this, like how open world games should be envisioned in this day and age. I think again this is an evolution of that. I think a lot of games are going to take a lot of lessons from this one in the future. Some of them will not take the right lessons, and hopefully some will. Again, it did open world better than any game that I've ever played before, because the sense of exploration felt genuine. The world unfolding before you felt real. I mean, there's a point early in the game, and this example gets thrown out a lot, but it's early enough in the game that I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything. Where you open a treasure chest, and this treasure chest takes you to a part of the map that you haven't explored, that you are underprepared and underdeveloped to be able to do anything in, and you're stuck in this fucking cave, and the solution is to fucking run. Like just run out of there. And you feel lost. Now fortunately, once you're out of the cave, you can get back to where you were pretty easily. But just kind of throwing the player and really showing them, like, no, this world's humongous. Like you're in a part of the map that you couldn't even conceive existed yet. Like that's the kind of thing. You still have like the Souls like dungeons in the game. Like you still have those areas. They're just kind of spaced out. They're in the game world now. They're spread apart a little bit. It made this very obtuse, very niche genre of Souls-like games accessible to a mainstream audience, which I think is also no small feat, because these are some of the best games that have come out, by most people's estimations, over the past decade and a half. And I think that From's probably going to see the residual effects of that. I think there's going to be more people going back and checking out, the Dark Souls series, checking out Bloodborne, checking out Demon Souls, and things of that nature. Just a tremendous, tremendous game. Even if you put in a fraction, like I did not beat Elden Ring. Like I played 60 hours of Elden Ring. I got, I don't know, halfway through the main story. And yet I still feel like I experienced as much as I would experience in like a full game, between all of the different, paths that you can walk down, and the kind of the natural encounters that you have as you go through the world. Those tell a story. So like I don't feel like you have to complete this game to experience this game. So even if you're kind of like, put off or daunted by, this, 90 to 100 hour open world RPG, you don't have to. like I feel like you can have a great experience without seeing a lot of the stuff that the game wants you to see. Tremendous, tremendous game. There could be nothing else that was game of the year in my eyes. And so Elden Ring is my game of the year. It's Micah's game of the year. Because there's two of us, it has to, I guess, be the consensus Dense Pixels game of the year. Even though even though I might, if Micah ever plays Carrie's number one game of the year, and he really likes it, then perhaps in the future that could move up on the list, because I also really like Carrie's game of the year, even though it did not make my top five.
Yeah, my game of the year is Pentiment. No, shouldn't be a surprise, given how much I've gushed about it. Yeah, just an honestly brilliant experience. Like, yes, it's a visual novel, but it's a mystery, and there's so much to do, and just there's not enough time to do anything, and that's the whole point. Is you're never going to have enough time to do everything that you would want to do. That clock stops for no one, not for you and not for the archbishop. Uh it's uh it's an experience that like really sat with me for quite some time after finishing it. I haven't started a new playthrough yet. I'm kind of glad that I waited, because they actually just patched the game to do some slight quality of life things, like you're basically able to adjust the text speed now, which is huge for me as someone who
Mhm.
reads really fast. And they added a smithing mini game that wasn't present in the initial launch, and I think that's neat. And they're also doing like historical updates. Like, people fact check them on some stuff, and they were like, "Okay, cool, you right, we'll fix that." Like,
Mhm.
uh, it is like Pentiment is really the embodiment of um all of the best Obsidian narrative skills. Like, the whole team, and it was a team of like 12 people at Obsidian that put the game together. um and yeah, it's the amount of care that went into this game, the amount of like passion, not just to craft an intriguing narrative, but to craft an intriguing narrative set within the specific time period of the world that this takes place in, and the attention to detail, and the fact that this little Bavarian town feels very alive because of how well it reacts to everything that you do. Um, just an absolutely brilliant experience of a game. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's for everyone, because it's not, because some
Mhm.
people aren't going to want to play a mystery game that is essentially, people are like, it's a book, and I'm like, I fucking guess it is a book then. um but that's fine, not everything is for everyone. But Pentiment is exactly for me, as a fucking ding dong who really likes that period of world history and really likes to be able to cite Cicero in my video games and be punished for it. And yeah, just everything about it was just really good, and I look forward to playing through it again now that it has received a significant patch. So
It's a game for me that kind of, weirdly enough, like playing through this, like, I understand now why Carrie is obsessed with Fallout New Vegas. Like, because if this is the level of, if this is the
yeah,
level of like character and story and narrative that New Vegas provides over the other Fallout games in the series, like, I get why you've played that game like a dozen times
yeah,
at this point. So very
and
cool.
I'll do it again. uh
So very cool. But yeah, that is our games of the year list, our top fives. I would love to hear your guys' game of the year list. If you join our Discord, go to densepixels.com/fans. Give us your top five in the episode discussion channel, because that would be very cool to hear, because that also sparks interest for me in terms of looking at some games that I might have missed, that I need to go back to and check out.
and if you want to buy games that were on our list that you haven't played yet, you can do so by going to densepixels.com/Amazon. Fund that Tomb Raider game, I guess, but we also get a little bit of that, skim a little bit off the top for us, and send that our way so that we can keep this show going for you. So yeah, and that takes us to the Dense Pixels post office.
That's right.
The
We
final
will,
post office.
yeah, of this year. We will start with Ricky, who compares two legends of their sport, quite frankly, two God amongst men, two of the greatest of all time. Of course, we are talking about Argentinian footballer Lionel Messi and Pokemon trainer extraordinaire Ash Ketchum, soon to be retired. Ricky says he doesn't think it's a coincidence. Both born in 1987. Both never saw Argentina win a World Cup. That's technically true. Both left their town as a young boy in the pursuit of greatness, and both are now the 2022 champion of the world.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it, but I do want to briefly go over the fact that the Pokemon anime is ending Ash and Pikachu's story in January, or starting in January. They're doing like an 11 episode like final arc for Ash and Pikachu. I'm a little heartbroken about it, to be honest with you.
I mean, he had to win eventually, did he
I know,
not?
and it's like, and it's one of these things where it's like he finally did it. He finally became the very best, like no one ever was. And like, what do you really do with that character after that?
I mean, if you're to believe the video games, he sits on top of a mountain waiting for people to challenge.
That's
it.
Red.
Oh,
that is a different character. Red and Ash are not the same character. I will write a thesis about this. Don't get me started. Yeah, I mean, look, I've been playing Pokemon since I was 8 years old.
Is he still a 10-year-old boy in the anime? Like,
yeah, basically, yeah.
He's
still,
not like Bart Simpson. He's not aged at all.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And like the showrunners have basically said like he doesn't need to age. Like why would he?
I mean, to be fair, like having really sad 35-year-old Ash Ketchum traipsing the world to become the Pokemon master could actually be a really compelling story.
Well, I mean, for the older generation, maybe. And maybe we'll get a time skipped Ash because they have announced they're starting like a new season with new pro tags and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, so my first exposure to, like, I was watching the anime before I was playing the game. Like, I was getting up before school an extra half hour early so I could catch an episode of the Pokemon anime before I had to catch the bus to elementary school. So yeah, it's a little bittersweet, the idea that Ash's story is coming to a close and that we're not going to see any more of Ash and Pikachu. It feels like it's one of those things that I think you sort of take for granted. It felt like they would always just sort of be around, in the same sense that, like, whether it's Bart Simpson or Mickey Mouse or whoever, like these ageless, timeless kind of characters that are just always, like, they're always there and nothing, and there's something comforting about how unchanging they are. But yeah, stoked to see Ash become the Pokemon master, like the world champion after this like tournament of champions. But yeah, I understand from a writing perspective that, like,
you can only do so much.
Well, you can only really do so much at that point. I much prefer, I will say I prefer to see them do this than sort of what, like Dragon Ball does, which is like, all right, there's an even bigger threat, and now we've got to change their hair color to something even different and get even more powerful. Like, no, it's fine. It's time. I understand, but I'm just like, oh, my boy.
Johnny also says that another thing that you could add to this is they're both 4'10". Leo Messi's a little guy. He's a little guy. Cam asks, do you all stock up on end of year holiday sales, or do you rationalize there being a reason you didn't bother with those games in the previous month? I am very much when I see a video game, my rationale for buying a game over not buying a game is I assign a personal worth of each video game when it, based on reviews, based on what I see. And there are just certain prices that I will not pay for certain games. Like, some games I have no problem dropping a $60 spot on. Some games come out at $30 and I'm like, I wouldn't pay more than $15 for that, or I wouldn't pay more than $20 for that. And I wait for those games to go on sale before I pick them up. Tunic is a good example. Like, I would really like to play Tunic. $30 is a bit too much For my tastes for Tunic.
Yep.
24 is a bit too much for Tunic. I've seen it on sale for 20% off a lot. I'd like to pay between $15 and $20 for Tunic. Like if Tunic ever comes out at $17.99, I will buy Tunic at that point. So yes, end of year sales, a great opportunity to pick up a lot of those games that you've just kind of been waiting to pay a little bit less for. So I definitely stock up.
Yep. I'm probably going to pick up Sonic Frontiers because that finally went on sale for the first time. I'm
Mhm.
honestly shocked it took them this long. It's been like 6 weeks since the game came out. I figured that was going to go on sale after like 3 weeks, but no, it got good reviews, so they left it at full price for longer. So, yeah, so that's like $42 right now. I'll pay $42 for Sonic Frontiers. Similar thought to you on Tunic though. I would love to play Tunic. I'm not paying $30
Yeah.
for Tunic. So, yep.
Daniel asks, how about a bottom 5 games of the year? So like bottom 5 or disappointing games are tough for me because I don't stay playing stuff that sucks. Like I will not power through something because we're not like reviewers. Like it's one thing if you're a reviewer and you have to play a lot of games and you know
Yeah.
a decent amount of games that you might not really be enjoying because you need to write a review on it. Since we're not in that position, I don't suffer through stuff that's not jiving with me. So like, and if you just want a list of games that haven't really jived with me this year, I don't really think I have too much. Most of the stuff I've been very, very deliberate and cautious this year about buying stuff, and most of the stuff that I played this year, if it did not make my top, my top games, was either good, but just not worth, mentioning in high regard, or merely fine and not worth mentioning in high regard. But I don't think I played anything this year that was actively bad that I can
Yeah.
think of.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Me either. I don't think I even bought anything this year that like I played and was like, yo, this sucks.
Hmm.
Like I feel like everything I bought this year I enjoyed to
Yeah.
some extent. So
Yeah. Casa asks, have any of you all had a moment in a game that made you pause or have to step away for a bit before resuming play? Frustrating boss, a sort of twist, character death, etc.
I mean, how spoilery can we get?
What's the game?
Pentiment?
Oh, I don't know if we want to spoil Pentiment yet, just
All right.
because it's newish.
It's still pretty new.
Yeah.
I will say that there is a character death in Pentiment that made me need to take a walk.
Wait, I'm
Yeah.
wondering, like, I feel like I know which one it is, but at the same time, like, that person's death is mentioned in a very non-dramatic way, so, like, I'd be surprised if that made you step away, if it's who I'm thinking of. Starts with a C?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, like there is a moment with that character where you try to like convince
Oh,
him
yeah, yeah, yeah,
to
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
run to like get out of town before shit hits the fan. And the game shows you like whenever there's like the persuasion check that you have built up over the course of your whole relationship with this person, there's a thing that comes up and it says like convince so and so to leave town, and basically it's like you were too nice to him.
Yeah, I'm about to say
He
it's funny.
likes you
It's funny
too
because
much.
it almost punishes you for playing
Yeah.
in a optimal manner. So very neat.
So that, and then the death that follows with that character, and the
Yeah.
way that his death is explained, I'm just like, oh, this sucks. I
For
feel bad.
me, my moment of this led to one of my favorite gaming moments to talk about. It was 2005. Metal Gear Solid 3 had
Okay.
just came out, and I was locked in the sniper battle with the end, and I just could not figure it out, and like it was pissing me off. I was spending multiple hours like trying to beat this old fucking man with a sniper rifle, and I just didn't get it. Like for whatever reason, like the mechanics of the fight just didn't click with me. So I was like, I need to step away from this game. I ended up not playing the game for about a week, and then I came back, and then I came back to the
Yeah.
game, and this fight has a in-game mechanic that looks at the clock on your PlayStation 2 console, and I don't remember how long you had to be away.
I think it's like 2 days.
Yeah, so like if you're away for multiple days and you left off at this fight, when you come back to the game, a cutscene plays where Snake walks up on the dead body of the End, who died from old age in this battle of wits between you and he. And you don't have to do the fight at all. Like, you just get to fucking mosey right on past it, which was incredible at the time.
Yeah.
You're just like, like, I just like, even more so than like the Psycho Mantis thing. Like, I'm just like, I don't fucking believe it. Like, this is insane. I can't believe this happened. What a crazy thing to happen in a video game.
I think the most like I want to say the time I got like so mad at a game that I had to walk away because I was like stuck on a boss fight. Trying to finish the first Kingdom Hearts when I was trying to run through those games a couple years back. That Ansem fight, I threw myself at that fight for like 45 minutes. And I just like I would reach a stage in that fight and I would die and I would get up, try again, be like, all right, cool, I'm going to do this differently. And I would get like a little bit further, but still like within like that stage of the fight, I would still die. And I eventually got so fucking mad that I just like turned the game off and I watched the ending on YouTube and I started Kingdom Hearts 2 after that. I was like, I do not care enough about this series to have the pride to have done it myself. No, I don't fucking care. I don't need to beat the piss out of Billy Zane. I will just simply watch the ending on YouTube and move on with my life. But I was mad at that fight. I don't usually get that mad at video games, but I was like pacing around the room. I was so fucking pissed off at that game. I want to say that's the most mad I've been at like a video game was at Kingdom Hearts 1.
The most recent example of this for me, I didn't get mad at this, but I did have to back out and kind of reapproach. I got stuck for a little bit on the Akumura fight in Persona 5.
Yeah, dude. That sucks.
Yeah.
That fight sucks dick.
It does. And it really like it's like, hey, have you been paying attention and have you really learned how the mechanics in the battle system work? Because if you didn't, you're gonna get your shit fucked up. And
I
like,
cheated my way through that, and I actually what I did was I cranked the difficulty all the way up because you do more damage. So it made it that much faster.
No, so
like, if I was getting through it in like one hit every single time, then I was fine.
I face planted on that fight about 3 or 4 times, and I was like, okay, let me rewind the clock. Let me go back to the day before. Let's do some grinding in mementos. Like, let's fucking gain some levels here. And then, like, when I did the fight, like, the last time, like, it finally clicked with me. I'm like, oh, like, you really have to fucking go to town on the baton pass mechanic. Like, that's the only way that you can get your damage high enough to really
unless you fucking cheat like I did.
Yeah, or that. Yeah, you can also cheat as well. But no, like once I figured out, I was like, oh, really? Like baton passing is the way to go. Like, so what I would do is like I would use my items for my party members that didn't have the requisite spell, and then just power up the dude that had the all target spell, and just and lay waste from that point. So once I figured that out, that first part of the fight got really easy. Then I died once to like the big robot dude. But then, in satisfying Persona fashion, like once you get past all that, like you can literally kill Akumura with one shot from your gun. So, which is very satisfying.
Yeah.
Cam says, of the TNP hosts, past and present, who is the most likely to be unceremoniously removed from the network due to blackmail leaks of their explicit fan content? This is, of course, a reference to the Mandy Rose situation going on over in WWE. Who got fired because she had, it was discovered that she had a lewd, like, OnlyFans equivalent that she was posting on, and so the company, like, fired her. Toot Sweet, which is fine by her because she's apparently making a shitload of money over there. Most likely to be unceremoniously removed from the network due to blackmail leaks of their explicit fan content. Oh,
Micah.
yeah. Yeah, it's Micah. So
It's Micah.
T-Wash says, since the year's almost over, who has the most games bought but not played? The answer to that question, also Micah, guaranteed.
Yeah.
And Leonardo even says, Micah for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
Actually,
Micah, of the hosts, Micah is the one with the least amount of self-control.
I can give him a run for his money because I did buy a lot of cheap games on Steam that I have not I've not quite gotten to yet. So, and then finally, well, actually, this is the last question because Ricky also says my guess it's a plot twist to the TNPO's question. Jay with explicit feet pics for sure. Gross. Don't do anything with feet. I'm not here to kink shame, but I'm here to also tell you that if you're a foot person, that's weird. So that is it. The final post office of the year. Thank you very much for your questions. Again, if you are not a member of our Discord, you can go to densepixels.com/fans to join the Discord server. We hope that you do, because there's always lots of fun stuff and conversations going on in there. Carrie, tell the fine people what just went up on YouTube.
Yes. You can head to youtube.com/BaltimoreGSO and you can view right now the entire program from Oops All Indies, both the full concert video, which please watch it. It took me like fucking 8 hours to put together. I would appreciate it if you watched it. But we also have all the individual videos as well. We've got picture-in-picture, so you can see the game footage that was running alongside the orchestra while we were performing the music. I arranged 2 songs on this program, including the Four Seasons Suite from Stardew Valley, as well as Paradise Stay Forever from Paradise Killer. Lot of other really good songs on there. We did Hopes and Dreams from Field of Hopes and Dreams from Deltarune. We did In the Blood from Hades. We did the Kevin levels from Overcooked 2. People may be surprised to see that we did Myst, but Myst is an indie game. It's just a very old indie game. And boy howdy, the Myst suite that we did, that was like our finale piece, and that piece has some hands. That's a pretty musically complex piece. Plus, you get to hear me absolutely wail on an acoustic guitar for a few minutes there. But yeah, overall, really, really cool show. A lot of stuff that I think from games that people really seem to enjoy, like Celeste and Outer Wilds and Hades and Journey and whatnot. So check that out. All of those can now be viewed at youtube.com/BaltimoreGSO. And then we announced our next theme. So keep an eye out for our spring show, which will be called Beyond, which is a focus on space games. So yeah, we're going to do some Mass Effect, and we're going to do some Halo and some Metroid and Mario Galaxy. I'm arranging the Metroid stuff, so it's probably going to be Super Metroid.
But I'm saying which tune?
It's probably going to be the prologue into Lower Brinstar.
Oh, okay, good. I wanted Brinstar. Kraid's theme?
Ridley's theme.
Oh, Kraid's theme is better.
Maybe Kraid's theme too. We'll see. I mean, look, I'm also doing a Final Fantasy IV piece for this program, because Final Fantasy IV ends with a trip to the moon. So
I'm just pleased that you're doing Lower Brinstar, because Lower Brinstar kicks
ass.
Yeah.
Look, there's a lot of stuff on the Super Metroid soundtrack that kicks a lot of ass, but there's also a lot of stuff that's just like weird and ambient, and there's only so much of the weird ambient stuff you can do.
What's the fucking name of the area? Like, my favorite track in that game is a weird ambient track, and I can't remember the area that it's in.
Dude, I could.
It's gonna bug
you.
me. It's gonna bug me.
You'll figure it out.
I will figure it out as soon as we're done talking, I'm sure.
And then in the meantime, I will also be at MagFest. QuickSave is not performing in any official capacity, but we're ding-dongs and we're going to bring instruments and set up in hallways and busk here and there throughout the weekend. And I am also performing with the MagFest Community Orchestra, which will be performing in the atrium on Saturday morning at the convention. So
Very cool.
you can watch me play trombone. Like really, real trombone.
Really leading into that, huh?
I do play trombone.
I know you do. Yes, I know. I don't mean because of Trombone Champ. I mean really getting into the trombone side of things.
Yeah. I mean, most of the songs are pretty easy, so
yeah.
I figured I might as well. Plus, there's like 8 other people who want to play bass guitar, and I can. If I do trombone, that means I can play on every song instead of just like 2 of them. So.
While you are on YouTube, you should head over to youtube.com/densepixels and subscribe there as well. Make sure you subscribe to this show as well as all the other TNP Studios shows by using your podcatcher of choice wherever you download fine podcasts. Look, you got a long road trip ahead of you, maybe. Download some TNP stuff that you haven't listened to previously. Some look forward, things of that nature. You can get yourself through your trip that way. We're also on Twitch by going to twitch.tv/densepixels. You can also follow our individual pages. Carry us up, it's Carrie. I'm DensePixels. Brad Terrence is Apparition410. That does it for 2022 here on Dense Pixels. Enjoy your holidays with family and friends. Take care of yourself. Be safe. Stay away from the viddy. It's out there. It's going to get you. Get your booster if you haven't gotten your booster yet. And of course, thank you very much for watching and listening. We will see you all in 2023.
See ya.
You're watching the Dense Pixels YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button while you're here and make sure you check out our weekly podcast where we discuss the latest gaming news and our impressions on what games we've been playing.